A wedding? It's supposed to be a celebration of love, a new beginning. But for TYREK and Kira Burton, that joy was shattered just hours after saying, I do.
Yeah, and that's what makes this deep dive so difficult. We're dealing with a story where a day of, immense happiness transforms into an unimaginable tragedy.
It really makes you think about how quickly life can change. One minute you're celebrating, the next you're facing a loss that's just unfathomable. We're taking a close look at the events surrounding TYREK's death, using this article from WFMyNews2.com as our guide.
And you're right, it's not just about understanding what happened, it's about grappling with the human cost, the ripple effect of this tragedy.
Absolutely. TYREK was only 37 years old.
Yeah.
He and Kiara had been together for 16 years before finally tying the knot. They were raising 4 daughters, two of whom they were in the process of adopting.
Wow. Building a family, creating a future together. It's heartbreaking to think about everything they lost.
The article shares some details about TYREK from his sister Brittany. She calls him a true gentleman, hardworking, dedicated to his family. He was working 12-hour shifts to provide for his family. It's clear how much he meant to everyone who knew him.
Yeah. It really underscores that this isn't just a news story. It's about real people whose lives were forever changed on what should have been one of the happiest days of their lives.
Let's back up for a moment
Yeah.
and retrace the timeline as we understand it. The wedding ceremony took place at the Barber Park Event Center in Greensboro, North Carolina. You can just picture it, right? A beautiful setting, everyone dressed up, ready to celebrate.
And then, just 7 hours later, the unthinkable happens. TYREK is shot and killed in the parking lot. It's this stark contrast, this sudden shift from joy to absolute devastation.
What really struck me is that police initially investigated this as a potential road rage incident.
Yeah.
Imagine that, a wedding celebration ending in something so senseless.
Yeah, it's a chilling thought. But you have to wonder, how does something like that even happen? What could possibly lead to such a tragic escalation?
Exactly. And it's even more complicated when you consider what Brittany, TYREK's sister, claims happened.
Right. According to Brittany, someone confronted TYREK, saying he'd been cut off at a stop sign. This confrontation escalated, and TYREK was shot multiple times.
Multiple times.
Yes. The article doesn't specify how many, but Brittany uses the word barrage, suggesting it wasn't just 1 or 2 shots.
That's just horrifying. It makes you wonder if there's more to the story than just a simple traffic dispute.
And that's where things get really interesting. We have these 2 different narratives, the police suggesting road rage and Brittany's account, which paints a more deliberate picture. It's hard to know what to believe at this point.
You're right. And it makes you question what actually constitutes road rage. Is it always a sudden explosive reaction? Or could it be more premeditated, fueled by something deeper?
It's a question worth exploring. What makes someone snack in that moment, turning a minor inconvenience into a fatal encounter?
It's easy to get caught up in the who and the how did this happen? But let's not forget about the people. At the heart of it, the family.
Absolutely. The article shares, powerful quotes from both Brittany and TYREK's mother, Carolyn. Their grief, their anger, it's palpable. They're demanding justice for TYREK, and rightfully so.
Brittany calls the person who shot TYREK a monster. And you can feel the raw emotion in her words. She's grappling with the loss of her brother, the injustice of it all.
And Carolyn, TYREK's mother, talks about how he waited 13 years to marry Kiara. They built this life together, raised these children, and it was all ripped away in an instant. It's hard to even imagine the pain they're going through.
Yeah, and that's where, even with the information we have, things get complicated. We have to think about the different perspectives at play here. The police are investigating this as a potential road rage incident, but we're also hearing Brittany's account of a confrontation. It's important to remember that memories can be unreliable, especially in moments of trauma.
Right. You're absolutely right. Eyewitness testimony is notoriously tricky. And in a situation as emotionally charged as this, it's even more complex. We don't know what the police have gathered in their investigation, what evidence might support either narrative.
It makes you think about all the unanswered questions. Was this truly random? Was it a case of mistaken identity? Or was there something more going on that we don't know about?
It's like trying to assemble a puzzle with half the pieces missing. We have these fragments of information, these glimpses into what might have happened, but without the full picture, it's impossible to say for sure.
And that uncertainty, that lack of closure, must be incredibly difficult for the family to deal with. Not only have they lost TYREK, but they're left with these lingering questions, this sense that justice hasn't been fully served.
Yeah, it makes you think about the role of the justice system in a case like this. How do they sort through these conflicting accounts? What kind of evidence are they looking for to determine what really happened?
And beyond that, How do you even begin to hold someone accountable for an act that seems so senseless, so avoidable?
Well,
This case, while heartbreaking on its own, really forces us to confront a larger issue. Road rage. What leads someone to turn a minor traffic dispute into a fatal encounter?
it's a question that doesn't have an easy answer. There's often a complex interplay of factors: stress, anger, impulsivity. And in some cases, it might not even be about the traffic incident itself, but rather something deeper that the person is carrying with them.
It's a reminder that we never truly know what someone else is going through, what might be simmering beneath the surface. It's like you said earlier, this isn't just a news story. This is about real lives,
Yeah.
forever changed. And right now, there's still this huge question mark hanging over everything. Who shot TYREK? The article doesn't give us any information about a suspect.
Yeah, it's that lack of information. That must be so frustrating. For the people who love Tyrek, not knowing who is responsible, if they're even out there somewhere, it adds another layer of pain to an already unimaginable situation.
It makes you think about the investigation itself. The article mentioned that police were looking at this as a potential road rage incident. But with such limited details, how do they even begin to piece together what happened? What are they looking for?
You've got to imagine they're looking at security footage from the parking lot, maybe even nearby businesses or traffic cameras. If there are anyone, witness statements are crucial too, especially from those who were at the wedding and might have seen something, even if they didn't realize it was important at the time.
It makes you realize how many small details could be crucial to cracking this case. Did anyone see an argument earlier in the evening? Maybe inside the venue? Did anyone notice a car speeding away from the parking lot? It really highlights the importance of even seemingly insignificant observations.
And beyond the who, there's the question of why. Was this a case of mistaken identity, a random act of violence? Or could there be more to the story, something that might explain what led to this confrontation?
It's almost easier to grapple with if there's a clear motive, something that helps us make sense of the senseless. But right now we're left with these fragments, these unanswered questions that make it even harder to process.
And that's the difficult reality we're left with. We may never have all the answers. This deep dive started with a wedding, a celebration of love and commitment. And it's a stark reminder that life is fragile, that moments of joy can be shattered in an instant.
It really makes you hold your breath a little,
Yeah.
realizing how quickly things can change. But beyond the sadness, beyond the tragedy, I think it's important to remember TYREK as he was a loving husband, a dedicated father, a man who was working hard to build a future for his family.
It's a reminder to cherish the people we love, to appreciate the moments we have, and to strive for understanding and empathy in a world that can often feel dark and unpredictable.
Because sometimes that's all we can do. Hold on to those glimmers of hope, those reminders of the good in the world, even in the face of unimaginable loss. And maybe, just maybe, by keeping TYREK's memory alive, by continuing to ask these difficult questions, we can start to create a world where tragedies like this happen less and less.